So take me back, April 2008, you're selling drugs. You've got all these other dreams, aspirations. You're going to school and your door ends up getting like kicked down and your life as you knew it was essentially over.
Yeah, it was a shocker because it's 2008 and everything that I'm doing in my life, I feel like I'm doing right. I'm going to school and I don't even see this trouble coming my way because you don't respect it because your focus is on one thing, is just making money. When my door got kicked in, I actually thought that it was robbers coming to do something to harm me. And to be honest, I'm glad it was the police because all I seen was ski masks and machine guns. And I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, what is about to happen? And then I see this lady, she comes in and she has my face on the paper saying, yep, this is him, grab him. And it was like a moment that I will never forget. It was a wake up call for me. And I can now share this story with a lot of, younger kids that may be going through the things that I've been through or thinking about going through things that I've been through that they shouldn't go through.
You mentioned that all you were focused on was making money. We talked before we recorded that we're roughly the same age, like 2021, when all this was going down. Why at that age were you so focused on just chasing money?
Because my hoop dreams went down the drain. I was dealt a funny hand when I got to be a senior in high school. I was in Athens, Georgia. I'm from West Philly, born and raised, but my grandparents was living in Athens, and my parents thought it would be good to get me out the streets of Philly to go to school, do some high school there. And while I'm in Athens, my aunt, she was battling cancer, and she finally passed away in 2005, my senior year, and it kind of ripped me apart, ripped me to pieces. I decided to come back to Philadelphia, and when I came back to Philly, it's a jungle. You gotta go get it. Like, everything, nothing is given to you in my city. A lot of my friends was already selling drugs, making a lot of money. It was a lot of peer pressure on me because it ain't just about the looks when it comes to getting girls and when you're in the streets. It's about how much money you got and what you got going on. So I was tricked in that mindset of just wanting to be the man, wanting to be the boss, and for the wrong reasons. And that landed me, getting locked up. But it was the best wake up call of my life.
So you said you did it in many ways for like vanity reasons, to get the girls to say, look at me, chasing the money.
To get the girls, to have that style, to have, to be respected, to be, that guy, those are the things that we grow up watching in lower income communities because a lot of us don't have resources and we don't have outlets. So we go off of what we know and who we know from the neighborhoods. Like my whole life, me growing up, I always seen the big time drug dealers come through in the newest cars, have the flyest clothes on. But also, I watched my dad be a working man and do the same thing and get everything that I seen a drug dealer get. So I actually got tricked in the wrong lane when I seen somebody show me the right way the whole time.
Why do you think people go down the wrong path in situations like yourself, where you said you had like the father in the home that was doing the right thing, making money like a legal way, but then you saw like these guys selling drugs with the flashy money in the cars and stuff. Like you had a good role model, and so given what you know, like what was so alluring to selling drugs?
I wanted to be my own boss, like at a certain age, you tired of asking your parents for money. And then also I wanted to do the things that I wanted to do. I was 20 years old at the time. I was living on my own. I felt like I didn't need anybody. And I felt like I was growing in my own shoes and I was taking care of myself. And it felt good to actually not need anybody or want for anything. And I always wanted to be my own boss. Like growing up, when I was a kid, I didn't know what I wanted to do always until I found basketball. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. But that didn't work out. So I still had to find a way that can still make me a boss and allow me to feel good about the things that I was doing. But now, to just fast forward it, I can take all that, to rewind and take all that bad stuff that I was doing in my life, getting tricked. And now look how I'm able to talk to the youth now and steer them the right way. So I don't think God made no mistakes with me.
So right after high school is when you started selling drugs, right?
Yeah, right after high school. Yep.
And then you did it for a few years. Did your life gradually get worse as you were selling more drugs throughout the years? And did you expect that the police were going to end up eventually knocking on your door?
No, my life was getting worse, but you don't actually ever think you're going to get caught. You think you're the smart one. You think that you're doing something differently than everybody else is doing. But my life got worse because some things can happen where it feels good in your life, where you feel like, oh yeah, God is blessing me. You're making money. But sometimes the devil can be blessing you too, giving you all the evil things that you think that the shiny stuff sway you from what you're really doing to people. And that's what I was doing. And I had to learn that. Like I said, I was 19, 20 years old at the time. My dedication was just, making money and being somebody in power that I wanted to be, but I was doing the wrong thing to get it. And that's why, God set me down and said, listen, this ain't the life I chose for you. And I had to figure that out on my own. So you can't change nobody's life. They have to figure them out for themselves. They got to wait till it's their wake up. And that was my wake up.
I know that sports and music and stuff is, in a lot of ways, how people who grow up in lower income environments escape like crime, escape selling drugs and stuff. You mentioned that like your ticket out of that you had thought was to be playing basketball. Do you think if you had been playing basketball, let's just say the trajectory continued, you're playing in college, maybe you end up potentially going pro, do you still think you would have wanted to sell drugs, or do you think that the drugs came from filling that void that basketball no longer gave you?
I think exactly what you said at the end. I think I was doing it because I needed to feel good about something. I felt like a failure to basketball. So I said if I was good at selling drugs, just like anybody else in my neighborhood or anybody else I seen on TV, then I would feel good again. But those things didn't make me feel good again. The thing that made me feel great about myself is learning myself. I think in life, you got to find out your purpose, what your true purpose is, and in your passion. And all of those down slopes of obstacles that I've taken in my life have prepared me for right now. So if I couldn't go through any of these downsides of my life, I can't be doing anything positive right now. But if I did make it to the NBA, I wouldn't have been selling drugs or even hoped to be selling drugs because that was never my goal. That was never my dream. I think I'm just a hustler and I'm good at selling things and doing things with my hands and my mind. And I could do anything that my mind put the task to me. And I think I get it done, whether it's basketball, business, or anything.
What was your mental health like? What was your mindset like when basketball was over for you? Were you depressed? Were you anxious? Or were you just not thinking about it?
I was really depressed and I was in denial. It's a difference between you being depressed and you kind of can own up to it. I was in denial and depressed. People would ask me, was I okay? And I'm like, man, I'm perfectly fine. But I was sitting, in the room by myself and I'm crying my eyes out that I let not just myself down, but I felt like I left my father down. I felt like I let my mother down because they supported a lot of the stuff I did with basketball. First, buying, sneakers. I seen my dad work Monday through Friday, and then I need $600 for AAU, and he giving me his check so he can keep me out the streets and those things. So I had a lot of pressure on me after, Hoop Dreams didn't work for me. So I said, I got to figure out something else that I'm going to break trajectory of my family and I'm going to get this money so I can be the one to take care of my family by any means. And at that time, my mindset it was in the right path, but the wrong direction.
But the crazy thing I think I understand from your story is you got like kind of super like lucky. I don't know the details of the entire case, but didn't the detective like not show up or something and
Yeah.
case ended up getting thrown out? I guess take the audience from like when they came, what did they arrest you for when the cops came? And then talk about like how that all evolved into the court case and how you ended up actually getting off.
When I actually got arrested, it was for narcotics. I had a couple felony charges, attempted deliver, manufacturing, all of those things. And I fought the case a little over a year. But before I beat the case, Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth state. You got 3 times to get tried. And on my third time, the DA wasn't all the way ready. And the judge gave a certain amount of time for them to be ready. And when that time came, my lawyer stood up and said, that time has come. And the judge dismissed my case right then and there. And while I was walking out the courtroom, the DA was walking in the courtroom. And that was my wake up call to say, you know what? I ain't gonna get another chance like this. My sister prayed for me before I went in the courtroom. And when I walked out that courtroom, I walked out with my head held high. Now I still had to go through, obstacles not to get tricked into selling drugs and doing all these things again because I'm still in the neighborhoods, I'm still in that culture, I'm still in everything. You don't want to just beat the case so your head get big. You're like, oh wait, I got off on this. But I didn't feel like I got off on this. I felt like I had my second chance at life and I ain't gonna get another one. So when I eventually, got through with that case, I just slowed my life down. But then like I hit with another bag of bricks and that was my dad getting cancer. So that's a whole nother story.
We're definitely going to get into your dad getting hit with cancer because I know that was like the inspiration for you starting your business. I want to really dive deep into the subject of like not getting pulled back into like old friends, old habits, old behaviors, because so many people they end up going to a place like jail, rehab, or they move somewhere to like get away from their environment to change themselves, and they come back, and it's so easy to be pulled back into that, especially with like survivor's guilt, right?
To that point, I don't like to feel like a failure. So forget anybody else being upset with me. I'll be upset with myself first. So whenever I feel like something wakes me up to say, I'm not this type of person, what am I doing? This ain't my calling. I'm a vessel to something different. I can be harder on myself than anybody else in the world can be harder on me ever. So I think for me, it's checking myself before anybody else can check me. And no, it's not easy getting out of an environment where you know how to make money and you good at it. I was like the person that, people trust. I don't have a shiesty bone in my body. So all the way up to the highest level when it was dealing with the plugs or anybody, I'm cool. I'm a trusted person. I'm not I'm gonna
No
make sure
snitch, no
everything is
snitch.
yeah, I'm gonna make sure everything is right. But like these are the things that I was good at, but I wanted to be great at something that was bigger than anything that anybody ever done in my community. And that's what really, drove me to really change my life.
So did you ever have instances where people would come up to you and be like, "Man, like I can't believe you're leaving us like that. Come on, like the money's good
I
here."
don't
Like,
have too many people that probably happy with me anymore. Just say it that way. I'm fine with that though, because I'm saving and I'm putting on for the whole world right now. Not just for people that look like me, but from people that come from environments like me who feel like they have no chances and resources in life. You could look at somebody look like me that had been through hell and back, but I chose the right direction to go and motivate people and keep my life in the right direction. So I could be proud of myself. The worst thing in the world is you living day to day and you really miserable and upset with how you living because everybody have the opportunity. You might don't have the resource because if you got breath in your body, you got the opportunity. And I knew I just had to go find a resource. And I just kept fighting year over year just to find that resource that was going to help me really change my life and keep it going for the better. And now I got kids that I gotta, take care of that look up to me. I got two sons that now I gotta raise in this world. So I can't, have them looking at daddy, he this, he that. They gotta look at daddy being proud that I created them and bring them into the world. And I care about those things.
what's your message to the kids growing up now in the streets?
Life is not a track meet. It's a marathon. So run your race. And the reason I say that is because 9 times out of 10, kids get in trouble right now because they look at somebody else's life and think that it's so good and they go do the wrong thing to go get what they have to make them feel good about it and realize the person that you just went to jail for trying to be like don't even have it themselves.
How do you get somebody to escape an environment that's not good for them when they feel so trapped in it?
See, that's the trick. That's what I just was talking about a few moments ago is you got to know when it's your time because when everything you're doing every single day, like what's in your community and who you are around, all that feels normal. Like it might feel as bad to the rest of the world, but when you're in that environment, that's the life you live. That's what you used to. But until the moment you look at it and say, you know what? It's something else out here. This just can't be it. You'll never wake up. And I had my moment to say, you know what? It's more life out here. It's something else to be given and it's something else to go get. And the reason why I had that opportunity is because remember early on, I was telling you, my parents sent me to Athens, Georgia. I got a chance to see another life. I seen kids driving cars at 16 years old going to high school. I'm like, hold up. We walking and catching the bus going to school. What's going on here? All of these things that I was able to see was different opportunity for kids that was brought up in different environments. And I'm like, listen, I come from the jungle. I'm gonna go get every and anything that I want in life, and nobody gonna stop me because ain't none of these kids been through the stuff I've been through. And that was the mentality that I had.
We were talking before about cheat codes, and we're talking now about your message to kids and how you got out of the streets. I know that there's no like blueprint to do this, right? Like everybody's got to have their walk, like we've talked about. But I would imagine that there's some common themes for people getting out of the streets and like living a better life. Like, what are some things as you look back now, whether it's things like fitness, mentors, spirituality, like whatever the examples are, like what are some things that actually like helped you continue to progress forward instead of looking backwards?
With these two eyes, if I could see it, I could be it. I always told myself, if God allowed me to see success and how it was done, I can now do it in a even a higher way than I seen it at. And for me, I had the blessing when I built Big Dave's. I was around a lot of rap artists. I seen a lot of big homes to the cars to, people buying real estate, owning a lot of property, like all of these things and stuff that I seen with my own eyes at a high level. And for me, I was around people that didn't probably have what I had. I had the money first and blew it. So I had to be humble enough to say, you know what? Let me sit around and understand what I did wrong so I could do it right the next time around. And I was listening. See, most of the time people get around people with a higher net worth for them or more experience than them, and they do all the talking. Why are you doing all the talking? Like, you got to listen so you can understand what you don't know to get to the next level. And that's what I did. I get around a lot of the big dogs, and if they ask me a question on how to do something or what am I doing in my career, that's something different. But if they telling me a story, I'm not cutting them off. I'm trying to figure out how they got to the 50 to 60 to the 100 million mark and how they did these things, because that's something that I'm trying to get to myself. I realize that sometimes when I'm talking to people, I'm actually been in bigger rooms and bigger situations, even in people that might have been a role model to me growing up or somebody I seen on TV. So that lets me know that I'm doing the right thing in a lot of the right places and doing what I need to do and growing myself and the brand at the same time.
So what was life like for you between 2008 and 2014 before you started your first Dave's franchise?
From 2008, I could walk you through it. 2008, that's when I got locked up. 2009, I think end of 2008, I'm working at the Postal Service. I'm working at the hospital. Right in I would say the cuff of 2009, my father get diagnosed with lung cancer, and I'm gonna walk you through that. He started coughing, and we was driving in the car one day, and he was like, "Man, this cold is killing me." And I was like, "Well, let's stop at at Rite Aid." And then he stopped and he got some cold medicine. And as time went on, about a week later, he was like really wheezing and coughing and coughing and coughing. And he goes to the hospital and he said he has pneumonia. So now they treating him for pneumonia. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, he's really going through it. He's not even like, he's almost like, just out of it. He's having trouble breathing. He's doing a lot of coughing. And then he went back to the hospital. We went to a different one. And that's when he found out that he had a mass the size of a golf ball on his chest. And from that moment, when I heard it, even before they told my dad he was diagnosed with cancer, I knew my dad had cancer because I just had went through it with my aunt for 10 years. She just said, "David, make sure you get checked for cancer." When my dad found out he had cancer, I seen a look in my dad's face I can still see today that I can never forget. When he found out it was cancer, and he had this, it wasn't a defeat look. It was almost like, why me? Why this happening to me? And, I watched my dad being scared to die to opening his arms and telling God, he ready, because on my dad, when he died, he didn't need any of us to pull a plug on him. My dad took the breathing machine off of himself, and we sat there and watched my dad take his last breath, because that was a hard thing for me, my siblings, my mother, or my grandmother, and my grandfather to do at the time. 2010, well, just to keep you in 2009, right after my father died, I had an injury where now I'm disabled. I don't know what's going on, barely walking. I wound up getting 5 back surgeries, almost 6 surgeries total, wrist surgery. I had my wrist cut open. I got a screw through my wrist. I fell on some ice and injured myself on a very dangerous situation coming down some steps. It was like God was dealing me a hand that I didn't know why. I'm like, I just lose my dad. And then now I'm disabled and I had all my health and everything was going good for me. But what I realized over those years, God was preparing me to get stronger for what I was about to battle for right now. There's no way I could have went year to year to year building Big Dave's if I had not went through 6 years dealing with my injury and years prior to that dealing with death in my family and learning how to, be tough in my skin and cope with tough situations. And it's going to be roller coaster rides in life. But nothing is going to stop me from getting to the top that I want to get to, because I got something to look forward to that I honored to my father. And I made my father more famous than he was dead than he wasn't alive. And that was my goal. 2010, I'm just going through the motion. I get addicted. This is the bad part now. I get addicted to opiates because now I'm fighting this pain. I'm going to pain management. I'm taking 100 milligram of morphine pills. I'm taking Percocets. I'm taking Xanax. I'm taking antidepressants. I'm taking all this stuff all day long for 5 years of my life like a zombie. So now I don't even know I'm living anymore. I'm just taking this medicine. I'm not working. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just on the couch. I'm going to the doctors every day. I'm sitting on the porch, and that is it. I have no life. But let me tell you something. I had a really good lawyer. And my lawyer, he was more than just a lawyer to me. He was like a father to me. And the advice he gave me along the way was, life can give you a bad hand, but as long as you know how to throw your big card out at the end, you know how to win the game. And I had to take that with me every day. Like, don't throw the big hand out too fast. Don't throw the big hand out, the big card out just to win that round. I got to wait till it's war and I can win that big hand. And that's what I did. I straightened my life out When I came to Atlanta, I partied my butt off. I got everything out that I wasted for the last 5 years of my life. I went broke, but I invested my last $200,000 into Big Dave Cheesesteaks, and that's what saved my life because I was done with partying because I spent so much money partying. I was done with wanting to play around in the streets with women. I was done with that. I was done with all that life. I just wanted to be focused and build my dream and really be the person that break my trajectory of breaking my family curses and providing resources and opportunity for my family and the communities around me.
Now, why cheesesteaks?
Because when I came here, I'm like, I'm going to get a cheesesteak. I went and got what they call a Philly down here. When I went and got one, it was a crowded spot. And when I bit it, I'm like, oh, this is terrible. This is what they get tricked off of down here. And I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. But when I first opened, I didn't sell cheesesteaks. I sold something called water ice. It's Italian ice. We call it water ice in Philly, but nobody knew what it was, man. I can't get nobody to walk through the doors. And I can remember a moment. I talked about this early on in the year. My first person that I tried to pass a flyer to, she was a white woman with a couple kids in a van. And when I went to go pass her the flyer, she said, "Get back, you can't pump my gas." Because I started in a gas station. And let me tell you something. I was so hurt because I've seen things on TV. I've heard stories from my elders and my family, but I've never experienced me being an African American and dealing with anything like that. But I had to realize over time, just because someone isn't used to you don't make them a racist. It's just that we come from so many different environments, and whatever was shown to you on TV or whatever you pay attention to, that's the prototype that you say, this is what this is. And I went to a community that was predominantly white, and I came into that community and stood strong. And by the end of that, they wound up embracing me, man. They opened their open arms like family.
That's impressive, man.
Let me tell you what I did. I took something and I said, you know what, opportunity. If God give me the opportunity, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna hold it and I'm gonna squeeze it so tight that I'm never gonna let it go till I provide other opportunities for other people. And now I did that. I can let it go now. I can give my arm to other people because I provided so much opportunity in the world. I have now 8 locations and 15 franchise locations, but the world know who I am. The world know my work. They pay attention to me now because I put the groundwork on and just being honest and being myself. And I wasn't scared for people to see that I wasn't perfect. You know, I still tell people I still make mistakes. In business, I'm learning every day. You got to understand. I'm just a young black kid out the ghetto that built a multi-million dollar company, making a bunch of money with a lot of power now. And there's a lot of people that don't like that. And a lot of people that do like it, that's rooting for me. But I had to do what's best for me, what's best for my family, and what's best for the people. And that's when I bring Big Daves inside those communities, I hire with those in those communities. I don't hire outside of them because I want to make changes around the environments. At the end of this, when I'm dead and gone, my name will live on forever. That's all I care about. So I will never be dead.
How do you deal with haters while also being open to criticism?
Man, I don't even know nothing about haters no man. Listen, I don't even pay attention to the haters because you know why? Because everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But your opinion is not going to stop me from making millions, and your opinion is not going to stop me from motivating people, and your opinion is not going to stop me from growing my company to where I want to get it to and being empowering around the world. So they're entitled to their opinion. But let me tell you something. The worst pain in the world is not anybody physically harming you. The worst pain in the world is you being successful to a hater watching you be successful and they can't do nothing about it.
And so my follow-up question is, there's people that feel trapped because they don't have the skills, they don't have a college education, their life's been terrible, they've made bad decisions, and they're like, well, I'm never going to be able to make millions in the right way. I'm never going to be able to pursue my dream. I'm never going to be able to follow my passion. What's your message to them?
You're looking at D. Hayes right now. When they watch this podcast, you're looking at somebody right now. The highest level education I had was a high school diploma, a little bit of community college. I just got an honorary doctorate though, which is amazing. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You can look at anybody when you look at wealth or you look at power or you look at opportunity. It's how you present yourself. When somebody have a mindset of a genius, they just have that mindset. They have that it factor. You have to put countless hours into something that you dream about and don't let nobody persuade you from those things, because if somebody telling you can't do something, you eventually will start believing it if you ain't strong enough to believe in yourself. Like, I believe in myself so much, people think I'm crazy. Like they probably want to pit me away how much I really believe in myself. I would tell billionaires, trillionaires, whatever somebody is worth, if you don't believe in me, you're gonna watch this and you're gonna miss this train of opportunity because the world gonna see me, a young black kid, come out of West Philadelphia, Viola Street, 5115, turn into a billionaire, and I'm gonna do it. And not for a money standpoint. I'm doing it for a goal for kids that's gonna come years and years and years after me. Same questions you just asked that might don't have a college degree or even have a high school diploma, but they're gonna remember the story of he ain't making it in basketball. He ain't making it in rap. He made it in business. And the world says that you have to have a doctorate and all these things to make it to where he got to in business, but he made it out the streets. It's a different type of power that way.
So despite like your failures, like you mentioned, like failing at basketball was a big hit to you. Obviously, getting arrested. What happened with your dad wasn't a failure to you, but it definitely was a painful moment for you. And I'm sure limited your ability to be hopeful in certain situations. Like, how did you develop this insane level of confidence despite some of the stuff you've gone through?
I think every guy in my family is like me. Some people just don't know how to put it in drive. I come from a family of dreamers, but I wanted to be the one that just not dream. I wanted to be with my eyes open, seeing it come to true life. And also, when I picked that Big Dave name on this company, I couldn't fail. I mean, I honor my dad so much. He was closest thing to God to me. He was my best friend. He was somebody that I respected to the highest level. So I think losing my dad was a sacrificial moment to my life. And I don't understand it still to this day why this happened to me this way, but I know how to cope with things differently now. And watch what I'm about to tell you. I got two sons, but my first son was born on my father's death day. So my dad died July 6, 2009, and my son was born July 6, 2021. So, you look at these things and you don't ask God or you don't question moments, but I can look at the worst day of my life and look at the best day of my life now and don't have to worry that I don't just have my father no more because I know that he's watching over me and watching this thing come to true life. And I'm going to do it until I have Big Dave's on every blue sign on the X's, just like I said in 2014 when I built the brand.
I want to talk about patience because I think people struggle with that no matter what their background is as far as building something meaningful. You chased fast money as a kid, that got you into some trouble. How have you learned to develop patience, during this entrepreneurial process?
Being prideful brought my patience because my city knew that I left Philly with a bunch of money, but when I went broke, I didn't want nobody to know. I struggled a lot of years inside myself getting my own way, but I also knew that it wasn't going to happen overnight. You got to understand, a lot of people never touched the money that I touched even before I even built Big Dave. So it was a hard thing for me to actually, I can't go to nobody in my family and say, hey, I got to pay for a hood. I need $40,000, those things. So all of these things built patience on me because I say, you know what? All I got right now is Atlanta, this 3-foot grill, and this broken fryer. I got no friends. I just took my past and put it on pause, and I said, I'm going to just focus on this brand right now and putting it all and giving it my all every single day. And it built character and it built patience because I'm almost on year number 10. August 6th makes 10 years for me. But my first 4.5 years in business, I didn't make money. I had to go through the struggles, the pains, the saying, what am I going to do? Struggling to pay employees, to pay rent, all these things that I went through. But it built character and it built patience because now that I got all these things going on for me now, I already been through the hard part. I already been through the parts that, that's painful of losing capital, not being able to pay your employees, not being able to build restaurants. I'm building restaurants right now every 3 and 4 months, 5 months. Those things gear me up for everything that I'm doing right now. And patience is the key. If you don't got patience, you'll never get the capital.
And so you mentioned that your first location started, I think it was in like a Shell gas station, right?
Yep, Shell gas station, 5020 Winter's Chapel. Let me tell you why I went with Winter's Chapel though. And it's not even in the Bible, but it just sounded like it was for me. I was broke. I'm like, it says Winter's Chapel. And I was thinking about that word chapel. And I'm like, you know what? This wasn't a mistake that I found this broken down gas station and this Indian guy gonna lease me this location with no business experience. It's a reason why I'm coming to this chapel. And let me tell you something, I didn't make no mistakes because that little broken down gas station made me famous in that chapel. I can't tell you how it happened or why it happened, but I'm glad it happened.
What was the momentum process like for you? Like, what were some of the big breaks that you had to go from your first location in the gas station to, now having franchises and what, like 20 plus total locations?
To be honest, it was a journey that was a task because every year was something different, right? So, like early on, I didn't know what an operating agreement was. I didn't know what EBITDA was. I didn't know profit and loss sheets. I didn't even know taxes. I didn't know any of these things. So I had to learn through years and years of trial and error. Let me tell you something. The youth, and I tell people this all the time, the youth will learn a lot better if we can give them the information indirectly and they'll keep drilling into them to pay attention to it. I learned business indirectly because while I'm sitting there chopping cheesesteaks every day and I'm seeing the long lines, guess what? When I went down, they're going to try to see how much the company worth and trying to raise money. All the number stuff matters now. Now I had to say, oh, this is just not a fun job. This is actually something I have to figure out and find out how to actually run a company if I really want to take this serious. So over the years, I kept hearing the same things: EBITDA, profit and loss, four walls contribution. Like all of these things just kept popping in my head until I started researching them and really just learning and just drilling it. And years over year, I was just teaching myself, just going on YouTube, just looking at tutorials, looking at things in business. And let me tell you something, Doug. I could sit down with a billionaire. I can sit down with anybody when it comes to business and we could talk about anything and I know what they're talking about and I could talk about it to the highest level because I spent 10 years of my life giving dedication to my craft.
How did your entrepreneurial experience from selling drugs, how did that help shape you now?
I told you, listen, sometimes stuff gonna be bad, but it's for the better. If I ain't never do that, I wouldn't be good at this. It's really, I've been an entrepreneur. I mean, just growing up, let me tell you, so something I didn't talk about. When I was a kid, I was 10, 11 years old. I was selling bean pies and newspapers with a 5% Muslim on the corner. I always was a hustler. I used to shovel payments for the rich people in the neighborhoods. Like, I never sat around and had to depend on my parents and just solely just be like, Dad, give me $1. Dad, give me $1. No, I wanted to give my own dollar because I ain't asking you for nothing. I want to buy what I want to buy. That's always been my mentality. I think that really like just carry with me along the way. And entrepreneurship isn't something that you go look for. It's in you. Like you can't just want to be an entrepreneur. You gotta be an entrepreneur from birth. It gotta be already in you. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I want to do entrepreneur stuff now. I was working. I want to try being an entrepreneur. It's never gonna work because you weren't built to be that. To be an entrepreneur, you gotta really be somebody that's willing to be broke 1,000 times. You gotta be willing to jump off the cliff 1,000 times. You gotta be willing for people not to understand you. Like it comes with a lot of pressure, and I don't like for a lot of people to use that word lightly when they say they're an entrepreneur. I call them LLC builders. Because if you ain't never made it through no hardships and really built legacies and empires and really made real money and real impact, you just have a bunch of LLCs. It's easy to pay $325 to get an LLC. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather call you an LLC builder than an entrepreneur.
What do you think we need to do a better job of for the kids in the inner city? Like I live in Baltimore, so very similar environment to Atlanta, Philly. There's a lot of crime, a lot of violence, just a lot of kids just going down the wrong path, a lot of murders. You kind of touched on it a little bit a few minutes ago, but like if you were king and you had the ship, like what do you think these kids need more of?
These kids need resources. There's so many geniuses in these communities, man. These kids nowadays are even smarter than my generation. My generation had a lot more willpower and grit to go get it, but these kids have the technology right in their hands from birth. So they're a lot more techy, and that's what the world is leading into. But I think now you got kids that can provide in waves to help the future. And I think we're blocking that in some of the communities by not giving them the right resources to show who they are. I mean, my wife and I do something called American Sesh, and we pit people around a round table where you might have a guy that works a 9 to 5 job that mop floors. You might have a billionaire. You might have a celebrity. You might have a community activist, and you might have just somebody that's good at marketing, right? But these people would never sit at the table in real life together. But when you notice that they sit at the table, you realize that the guy who actually might mop floors from, the 9 to 5 job, he has so many just genius ideas on how to change things around the world, but he's never going to be able to do that because he don't have the resources to even have someone to listen to him. I think we need to listen more to the youth and know what they want instead of just telling them what to do. We don't lend a hand so much to understand their wants. We just want to know what's our needs. Because if you think about a child, even since we were kids, we were always told what to do. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. But like these kids nowadays have a lot of smarts that's going to help the future. And we need to see what those thoughts are and those ideas are. And we need to understand why they're doing the things that they're doing. Because most of the kids nowadays grow up in communities where they might not have two parents in the household. So a lot of that stuff they doing is off of hurt and pain. And the other thing is, and I'm going to say this, and a lot of people probably will understand this at the highest level, religion is completely disappearing out of these kids' lives. And that's a big problem. When I was a kid, I wasn't, where I was forced to go to church, but church was something in my life. I had to understand God and understand, the respect of the religions. I think now kids nowadays don't look at heaven or hell. They just do the crime and don't look at if they ever going to, anything is going to happen bad to them. And I think that's a big problem. And what's going on in society is the religion is leaving out of the households.
And when it comes to like some of these kids, do you think that the message needs to come from the parents, or do you think the schools? Do you think celebrities they look up to? Like, where can the message come from?
Everybody. I think we all need to come in as collective and come together. Celebrities got the power from the reach when it comes from the influence. The parent has the chastising stage, and the school has the teaching element. So if all of these elements come together, you now helping communities at the highest level change the trajectory of crime when it comes to making money, opportunity, education. All of these things change now when you got all of these buckets now working with each other.
What's your purpose now with what you do? I mean, I know when you first started, it was to escape the streets. It was for your dad. Like, what's your purpose now?
The purpose now is honestly, I'm on a different type of high. The high I'm on now is success and motivating people and also shocking myself because I don't never give myself a pat on the back. Sometimes I'm a little hard on myself and I should probably do better than that. But I can sit and look at all of the success I had along the way and say, well, I'm almost where I want to get to. So I'm still holding that torch so high that I'm forgetting about where I'm at right now. And I think I got to do a better job at just pulling myself in and appreciating those moments because I remember the moments I couldn't even feed myself. And now I'm feeding people every day. That is so powerful in every way.
Did you ever have moments early on where you would kind of go back and have second thoughts about going back to the old version of yourself?
No. What's so crazy is that I get irritated when I look at the old version of myself when I see it through someone else. Because I say, this ain't the way. You getting tricked out your spot. It feels good now, but this ain't going to keep you here. See, anything fast is not going to stay stagnant. Anything that happens too fast in life is not real. The stuff that happens slowly and painful is the stuff that's going to be around. I mean, in my field, you can look at guys like Colonel Sanders, the KFC. He was like 60 years old before he got his success. Like, look at so many people spend so much time. You look at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is one of the largest franchises right now in the world. They spent over 30 years of building a format before they released it out to different states and before they lifted out different cities. Like, so when you look at these things, people spend time in building legacy. Legacy just don't happen. You look at Amazon. Amazon was in the early 90s. It started getting really, really big and I would say in the middle of 2000s where everybody started paying attention to it. But these people had 20 and some of them had 30 years before people knew that they existed. Take time.
What do you think your dad's saying to you right now?
Man, my dad right now is saying, I knew you could do it. Because let me tell you something. Before my dad shut his eyes, it was this look he gave me. And he said, listen, I know I raised you to stand on your 10 toes to break the trajectory of this family. And I know you're going to do it. I'm going to die, but I know you're going to carry the torch. And let me tell you something. The hardest thing for me to hear was, I'm going to die. It never leaves me. My dad told me like the day before he died, he was going to die, but he was honest with me. But I take his words and I use it like a battery charger every time I get low on energy and I build back up. And I know right now my dad is telling me we almost there and we getting close to that mountaintop. And it's just not about money. The money is good because I can do things with my kids and take care of my family and things like that. But the power of the brand and kids around the world paying attention to it and them changing their lives is stronger than the value of currency any day of the week.
Do you ever struggle with like being hard on yourself now?
I'm hard on myself every day because if I'm not hard on myself, I won't listen to nobody else. I have to be hard on myself first, and I have to check myself before I let somebody check me. Because I'm built that way. I always been wired up that way. I don't really have to wait for somebody to tell me that I need to get myself together, but I will respect it if I respect that person. And if somebody tell me that at the highest level, I take it with a grain of salt and take it serious and really, try to turn things around. But I make sure that I don't, stare myself down the wrong ways. I don't hang with the wrong crowds. If it don't make sense, I don't walk outside the door. I'm just not outside now freelancing like I used to, because outside could be a lot of trouble. And I know somebody like me with the power I have right now, trouble is waiting for me, and I won't let trouble win.
Talk about the importance of your circle of influence and why people should really pay attention to that.
The circle of influence is important because, like, with me and my wife, like, if I am slipping, she might say, D, come on, let's get together. You got to turn it up. Like, you need that. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're in business, it's that slope. You got your high where everybody's stroking your ego, and then you ain't even realizing while you at your high, you really at your low, because the whole time you at your high, everything is starting to fall apart right in front of your face. It's just like a downslope. So you need somebody besides you every step of the way. You don't need yes men. You need people around you really being honest with you, and people really want to see you grow. And you as a person got to be the same thing to the people around you. You got to want to see them grow. Y'all got to help each other, and y'all really got to be a team. And if anybody around you is not leveling up with you year to year, then you need to get it from around them, because it's going to be like quicksand. In a minute, they're going to grab you and sink you down with them.
You talked about your dad has been a strong mentor of yours, both when he was alive and now that he's also been passed. And you said that a lot of the business stuff you've learned has been through trial and error, like having to learn through pain. But I would imagine you've had some people come into your life throughout the course of your business career that have maybe not built a franchise for you, but that have helped you along the way in some way or fashion. Who have been a couple people that have been real game changers for you?
Early on, I had some really good friends of mine, Steven and Robin. They was really good friends of mine. But then along the way, I got to meet Richard Lou Dennis, New Voices family, and they was able to open their arms and embrace me and help me when it came to, the capital side, to be able to, make this thing really take off and make my dream happen. Now, to be clear with all of this, I came in this thing with my own capital and invested my last dime and everything I had into this business. But I was able to work my tail off and, make it attractive for other people to want to invest in the brand. I think that was amazing for somebody to take something out of a gas station to secure millions of dollars to be able to grow their brand. And I got to look at it as, that's something that the average human can't do. So I think my hard work set apart just from the education part, but the hard work part.
And the capital, was that from your previous life?
Yeah, the capital I had was from my lawsuit, and then I came down here, and then got investment stuff like that. But for years, I just battled the business of my own.
That's awesome. And what about Eve? I know that she was very instrumental in some stuff too.
Oh man, listen, Eve, listen. Before you get to the any of the money aspect of it, Eve was probably key in the ignition for me. I had the car; she was the key, because at the time I couldn't get people to understand the brand. I couldn't get the social media presence. Instagram was really just starting, like, so people just getting familiar with everything. Facebook was the thing pretty much, but I didn't have that presence of somebody that had a multi-million dollar business or trying to build a multi-million dollar business. So when she came, before she bit the cheesesteak, she was like, I'm not gonna let any of the people with me eat the food until I taste it. But when I eat it, I'm gonna let them eat it. So I literally had no money, nothing else that I could tell you that was gonna save me get through this week. I'm making this chicken cheesesteak that, like, my life depended on it. And when I gave it to her, when she bit it, she was amazed. And, like, next thing I know, she posted on all her social media platforms. I got a line that I can't even handle the next day. I mean, out the parking lot. The rest been history. In 2018, I went to a competition at Georgia. Wanted me to represent them in, and I ranked 7th in the world out of 1,500 chefs around the country. And I did it on a barbecue grill. I didn't even do it on a flat top. I took a skillet and put it on a barbecue grill, and they didn't even let me qualify for the last round. I probably would have won the whole thing, but Orange Beach, Alabama, I accept 7th place. So I'm a black kid out of the ghetto. I take 7th.
Last question. Imagine you're talking to Derrick, whose basketball career just came to an end. You got 2 minutes with him. What are you saying to him?
If I had to tell Derrick that just got done with thinking his hoop dreams was going to work, and he's stressed out and he's about to get in a lot of trouble, I would tell him, life is not a track meet. It's a marathon. Run your race. It's not the end for you. Just don't get distracted. I live my life with that every single day because think about it, Doug. Right now, you got a podcast, but you're running your own marathon. You're not running a track meet. You're not running out of gas to say, oh, I want to be the biggest podcast first. You're taking your time building this thing up because you want to be there in the end. And the reason I know this is because you're taking the time vetting out people around the world who's making changes to what they're doing. And a lot of people go off of who people are in the world, how many followers they got, how many insights they got, and they missed the powerful part of what's going to be powerful in the story when somebody hears this versus how many followers they got or, how many insights they get a week. So I think that's important. And I think that's what's going to keep you in the game long term. If you keep just looking at people influential services that they do in the communities and what they're doing around the world to tell a story versus how much followers they got, because the impact is much bigger than the following.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I mean, that's what I'm in it for. It's just impact. It's just to make a difference and just want one person to see or listen to this and be like, man, like this really resonated with me and I want to change my life because of it. Well, Derrick, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. Thanks for being so vulnerable. If people want to find out more about your journey, if they want to follow you on social, if they want to check out Big Dave's Cheesesteaks, where's the best place to do that?
My company is at Big Dave Cheesesteaks on Instagram. My personal page is official D Hayes. Follow me. I drop gems on my pages. I show real authenticity with my life. I try to be as real as possible because if you're always your authentic self, you never have to worry about a script.
Amazing. Follow along this man's journey. He's doing some big things. Thank you so much again for coming on. Let's definitely stay in touch too.
Oh, let's do it, man. Listen, I heard you a little bit of your story too, man. Happy that you shook everything that you was going through. And look at you, I know what it's like to be hooked on something and now you're making a change. So give yourself a pat on the back because a lot of times we miss that. We just keep on working and just forget about like how we really made a change for ourselves first before we can make it for anybody else.
Amen, man. Thank you so much for the kind words. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I really think you're going to like this video as well. I'll see you there.